Lesson 5. The special finite, must, have, got, to, to. Mr. Presley, the verb must is one of the special verbs that I told you about earlier, but I didn't deal with it fully then, so let us have a look at it now. 1. Like the other special verbs, it forms its interrogative by inversion. For example, affirmative, I must go. Interrogative, must I go, and its negative by adding not. For example, affirmative, you must go. Negative, you must not, mustn't, go. 2. In meaning, or at least in one of its meanings, it has an imperative quality, that is, it suggests a command or an obligation, and in the negative a prohibition. There are several examples of this use of must on pages 30 to 34. For example, Henry VIII passed a law to say that men mustn't play football. The policeman said, you mustn't play football in the street. 1. See Book 3rd, Lessons 18, 20, 23, 25, 26, 28, 30 and 32. 2. But see later, page 37-8. Must I eat the roll, Sergeant? I must tell the others the news. We must get down to some grammar. Note that must, mustn't, is used only with the present or future meaning, not with the past meaning. 3. There is a second meaning. You have had this in Book 1st, page 203. Eggs must be very scarce here, equals surely eggs are very scarce here. That is the only explanation I can think of in the circumstances. Must here expresses not compulsion, not what someone is obliged to do, but rather what seems to be the only reasonable explanation, the thing that one would naturally think. There are 4 examples of this usage in Lesson 4. Jan must be pleased about it, equals I am sure that, naturally, he is pleased. I think sport must be in an Englishman's blood, equals that seems to be the explanation. He said, you must be hungry, naturally, if you haven't had any dinner. He must be rather a trial to his parents, equals that's what I should think in the circumstances. Or in such a sentence as, if he left here at 4 o'clock he must be home by now. It is only reasonable to think that. 4. But sometimes the negative of must is not must not but need not, needn't, or don't, doesn't, need. It depends on the meaning. To be expressed, mustn't is a prohibition, an obligation not to do something. Needn't implies no compulsion. With midn't there is a freedom of choice. There are 4 examples of this in Lesson 4. For example, you mustn't miss the lesson, but we needn't, don't need to, have it on Thursday. That is, it is not absolutely necessary to have it on Thursday. You needn't, don't need to, wait until this afternoon. You needn't, don't need to, worry, hob, equals there is no necessity for worrying. You'll never be made dull by too much work. One needn't, doesn't need to, sit in a classroom to learn English. Other examples, must I be at the party by 7 o'clock? No, you needn't, don't need to, be there by 7, but don't be much later. Must I answer all the questions? No, you needn't, don't need to, answer them all. It will be sufficient if you do 4 of them. You needn't go home yet, but I must. 5. When the meaning of must is a reasonable explanation, para 3, the negative is can't. For example, affirmative, you must be hungry if you have had no dinner. Negative, you can't be hungry yet, you had a big dinner only an hour ago. Affirmative, if Fred left here at 4 o'clock he must be home by now. Negative, if Fred only left here at 5 o'clock he can't be home yet. Affirmative, if he said that, he must be mistaken. Negative, if he said that, he can't be telling the truth. 6. Instead of must we sometimes use have to or have got to. This form can be used to express the present, past, future or conditional. You will remember must cannot be used to express the past. Here are 5 examples from pages 30 to 34. If you want to learn English you have to work. Sport must be in an Englishman's blood, they just have to play football. He said, now you will have to come to the police station. Must I eat the roll? You don't have to if you don't want it. Hob looks disappointed because he's, equals he has, got to come here on a holiday. Here are some further examples. Present, I have to go, or I've to go, or I've got to go, to the dentist today about my bad tooth. Past, I had, or I'd got, to go to the dentist yesterday about my bad tooth. Future, I shall have to go to the dentist about my bad tooth. Conditional, the dentist said that if my tooth went worse I should have to have it out. All these sentences express something that is necessary. The opposite of have to is needn't. don't need, or don't have to. For example, they needn't play football. They don't have to play football. 1. Have to is used in the conditional and future, but have got to is not. You needn't eat the roll. You don't have to eat the roll. Hob needn't come here on a holiday. Hob doesn't have to come here on a holiday. I needn't. I don't have to go to the dentist. I didn't need to. Didn't have to go to the dentist yesterday. I wouldn't need to. I wouldn't have to have my tooth out. 7. Another form that can be used instead of mustism is was, were, etc. 2. You get this particularly in indirect speech. For example, he says I'm not to ask silly questions. He said you were to go to the police station, did he? Here are 1 or 2 further examples. Mr. Presley told us we were not to waste time. I told him he was not to make that mistake again. A. He's treated you very badly. I'll go and tell him what I think about him. B. You are not to do that. A. I certainly will. You are not to try to stop me, Mr. Presley. Well, that's nearly everything about must. You might like to read lesson 4 through again now and note the various uses, and you will find some further examples in lesson 6. Aleph. If you say we are to remember all this, I'll have to write it down. Mr. Presley, you needn't write all of it down, but you must try to remember the main points. Summary of usage with must. Compulsion, prohibition, no compulsion. I must not, mustn't. I need not, needn't. I have to, I have not, haven't, to. I do not, don't, need to. I am to, I'm not to. I do not, don't, have to. Exercises. 1. In the following sentences use the have to form instead of must or need. 1. We must work hard to learn English. 2. Hob must come to the class on Saturday. 3. I must go home now. 4. You needn't sit in a classroom to learn English. 5. You needn't eat the roll if you don't want it. 6. The students needn't come for a lesson every day. 7. Hob must go to the dentist's tomorrow. 8. Hob needn't go to the dentist's tomorrow. 9. You needn't wait until this afternoon for the money. 10. We must get down to some grammar tomorrow. 2. In the following sentences use the am to form instead of must or have to. 1. I must go to the dentist's tomorrow. 2. You must come to the class on Saturday. 3. Must I understand that you are not coming tomorrow? 4. I told him he must not make that mistake again. 5. He says that I have not to ask silly questions. 6. He said that I have not to ask silly questions. 7. Mr. Presley says we mustn't be late tomorrow. 8. He said we have to be here at 9 o'clock. 9. I said, you mustn't do that. 3. Give the opposite of the following, implying that there is no necessity. 1. They must come to the class tomorrow. 2. You must sit in a classroom to learn English. 3. The sergeant said that Ted must eat the roll. 4. I have to finish this work by Thursday. 5. You must go at once. 6. You must put on your best clothes to visit my friend. 7. He must look for the book at once. 8. We must learn all this grammar in one lesson. 9. He must sell the house this year. 10. I must go to my lesson tomorrow. 11. They must answer all the questions. 12. You must cook the ripe apples. 4. Note the use of must and its variants on pages 30-4 and 43-6. Now give the opposite of the following. A. Implying prohibition, 3 forms. B. Implying no compulsion, 3 forms. 1. Jan must give up his studies. 2. He must stay in London. 3. You must shout for that team. 4. They must pay me for the work I have done. 5. You must tell everyone that Mr. Presley played football a long time ago. 6. I must answer that letter today. 7. We must begin our lesson before 9 o'clock. 8. Tell Hob he must eat all the chocolates. 9. You must answer all the questions. 10. He said I had to write something. Be careful with something.